Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome to Small World and thank you for joining me with today's video. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make miniature corrugated metal roofing. This process is super simple and easy to do, and it looks great as well. Not to mention, you can also achieve a variety of different paint finishes too. Let's get started. I use some thick craft aluminum foil for this project. This is much thicker and more durable than kitchen foil. I lay some flat on my cutting mat and I mark out the length that I want my pieces to be. In this case, about 2 3/4 of an inch. Then I tape the edge of the foil roll to my cutting mat to prevent the edges from moving around or lifting when I cut the strip. I use a metal ruler and a sharp X-Acto knife to cut the foil. It takes several passes to cut all the way through, and make sure to cut slowly. The foil is really tough, so if you cut too quickly, the knife can easily skip along the metal foil surface and onto your ruler and you risk cutting yourself, so just be careful and take your time. Here's the cut strip of foil. I use a toothpaste squeezer to make the corrugated texture, and I first learned about this awesome technique from Toyman Television. I'll link his channel in the description below. Basically, I feed the strip of foil into the squeezer, and I twist the knob on the side which pushes the foil through and gives it the nice corrugated texture. I really like the way this foil looks, and I think it looks much more convincing than using corrugated cardboard or paper. I trim off the excess foil along the edge and I begin to cut my individual pieces of corrugated roofing. After I have one piece cut, I overlap it with the remaining strip to make sure all of the pieces I cut are the same size. Again, I take my time while cutting through the foil, however the grooves of the corrugated texture make it easier to cut without having to worry about your blade wandering as much. Here are the cut corrugated pieces. I think they look fantastic, and you could leave them as is if you're going for a shiny corrugated look. However, lots of corrugated roofing has a dull, rusty, or weathered appearance, so I use some flat clear coat by Mr. Hobby to dull down the shine. As you can see, the foil still looks metallic, but it's just not as reflective as before. The piece on the left is before the clear coat, and the one on the right is after. Again, you could leave the foil at this state if you'd like, but I'm going to add some weathering to these. For this piece, I'm randomly adding some black acrylic paint with a sponge and paintbrush. Then, I take an old toothbrush soaked in isopropyl alcohol and I stipple and scrub the surface to blend the paint. This darkens the whole surface of the foil and it makes it look grimy and weathered. For the next piece, I repeat the previous steps of adding some black paint randomly and scrubbing it with a toothbrush and isopropyl alcohol. But after this step, I apply some enamel rust washes by AK, and one is lighter and one is darker. I just apply the wash between the grooves of the corrugated texture, and occasionally I'll thin the washes further with enamel thinner to get a more subtle effect. For this piece, I'm adding some dark brown acrylic paint along the bottom, and I randomly apply some more paint up top with a sponge. Like before, I use the toothbrush and alcohol, and then I blot off some of the excess using a paper towel. After this, I use the same enamel rust washes as before, and I scrub them all over the surface. I add additional texture by stippling the entire surface using a sponge soaked in enamel thinner. For the last piece, I randomly brush on the enamel washes that I've been using, and I make sure to cover most of the piece. Then, I simply just dab the enamel thinner soaked sponge all over the surface, and the result ends up looking just like a rusty piece of metal. Take a look at this awesome rust texture. Here are the different finishes that I covered in this video, and I think it's so cool how different each piece can look just using a few simple techniques. Also, I want to give a big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters out there. Your support is amazing and it really helps make these videos feasible for me to create, so thanks again for everything. If you'd like to join my Patreon community, that would be greatly appreciated, and in return, you'll get to see my work in progress pictures of my projects before any other platform, as well as have access to my downloadable content like my 3D print files and PDFs from my previous projects. I'll leave the Patreon link in the description below. Well anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.